there everyone, it's Anthony back with another video here on Single and Placing. Hi, I hope you're having a fantastic day, weekday, weekend, week, month, evening, overnight, morning, whatever you've got going on. Thank you so much for stopping by. As you can see, we've got a WIP chat. Just kidding. I decided to do another little cooking video segment thing. I did my first one as part of my series for the WT Benda kit from Distracted by Diamonds called Masks or Masquerade. And that was a lot of fun. It was part of that series. I focused on Polish influenced cuisine. We did pierogies and kielbasa and the cucumber salad. What was that called? Mizeria. We did mizeria. But I don't have a kit tied to what we're making today this time around. It's just something that I wanted to share with you all. I thought it would be fun. I thought it would be another little departure from the typical diamond painting content. So I may throw in some time lapses of me working on whatever I'm working on during this time in between some stuff here and there. But really, this is just a little cooking video, and I hope you really enjoy it. So the impetus for this, like I said, I wanted to share with you a recipe that I really enjoy making, and I haven't made it too much recently, so I wanted to do it, and I figured might as well film it, and yeah, it just jumped out as something I wanted to share with you all. So during the lockdown during 2020, I started really getting into learning a little bit more about authentic Korean dishes. I've mentioned it in a previous video, but my stepdad is half Korean, and he had this in our fridge pretty much at all times. Not this exact style, had this in our fridge at all times. And when I was younger, I really didn't appreciate it, but then I started getting more interested in learning about Korean cuisine and culture and music and all sorts of stuff in 2020, all the way up until today. So this is one recipe that I learned how to make pretty early on. It was like the first thing I wanted to learn to make from Korean cuisine, and that's kimchi. So this is actually going to be radish kimchi or gakdogi, and this is, I hope my pronunciation's not good, but that's just, I've been practicing. I'll put the name of it on the screen so you can see how it's spelled out. But this is just a classic Korean side dish. This isn't your traditional cabbage kimchi. This is radish kimchi. I like it because it has a little bit more of a crunch, and it holds that crunch a little bit longer even after it's been fermenting for days, weeks, what have you. So I tend to go for this because the cabbage can sometimes be a little bit soft for my liking, so this is what I gravitate towards. But it's just as popular, it's just as classic of a side dish as your traditional cabbage kimchi. So let's go ahead and get started. What I have over here is some ingredients and stuff. So we're gonna start off by just me chatting a little bit about kind of the prep and what we're doing first. And then I might do double time or quadruple time just to get through the rest of the chopping and prepping. There's no actual heat involved. Like, we're not turning on this stove. We're not doing anything like that. This is just chopping, mixing, and prepping, that kind of thing. So the first thing that you're going to need in order to do this dish is your Korean radish. So this is what Korean radish looks like, a little bit different than your traditional radish. And I have approximately 8 pounds of Korean radish here to prep. So you can see sometimes you get little small boys, sometimes you get bigger ones. Depending on the season, they can be much, much larger than this. Like, this is probably about 3 pounds. You can get them as big as like 6 pounds, even larger. So I don't know if we're off season at the time of me filming this, but we have our little guys here. So I had to get several of those. And like I said, this is just about 8 pounds of Korean radish. We'll make a decent sized batch for 1-2 people. If you're making it for a whole family and you're eating it quite often, you might want, let me turn, these are really reflective in the light. That's so weird. Let me turn that down a little bit. Okay. You might be making a much larger batch than this, depending on your family size and how much you go through kimchi, but this will be enough to keep myself and my roommate and our downstairs roommates going for a little while. So we've got this to start. So what we're gonna do is, this is our first step, is peeling, washing, chopping, essentially prepping our radish. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the biggest one first, just to kind of show you what this looks like. And then I'll go ahead and do the other three in a fast speed. So first thing you're gonna wanna do is cut off your tips here. So where the stem's kind of coming off, and then where our root kind of ends. So there's that. Just a little snip there. And then the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and peel this. Now, I don't know where it went, but I used to have one of the like single-handed wide vegetable peelers. I highly recommend those over this traditional kind of like flat, like vertical peeler. It's just a lot easy to pull down than it is to like go this way. And this particular one just has all this extra plastic, so it can make it hard to peel something that's this big and this kind of like curved. But we're gonna do our best here. So yeah, while I'm prepping this, make sure to leave in the comments if this is a dish that you make at home, if you're familiar with it, if you've had kimchi in the past or radish kimchi, make sure to let me know. This is something that, like I said, I learned to make in 2020 when we were all kind of stuck at home. Once the stores opened up again for inside sales with your masks and limiting the number of people that could come in, I would go to the to our Asian market here in town, or in my part of town, and I would basically pick one recipe. Every few days I was trying something new or remaking something that I had learned. And so this was one of them that I was just making all the time. And luckily at the time, one of my roommates he really liked kimchi, but his wife did not like it. So she'd be like, oh my gosh, did you make kimchi again? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, the whole house smells. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, it's okay. I just like, and then she'd get used to it. And then she'd be like, oh my God, like I don't even smell it anymore. I'm getting used to like the kimchi smell in the house. And I was like, I'm so sorry. So anyway, as you can see, this is, I might speed this part up. I really do not like using this particular vegetable peeler because it just can't get the shape. It like, essentially it can't really do like round stuff. So it's just a pain, but you want to get, essentially you want to get all of that skin off. You can see as we're peeling the green part of the cabbage, I'm getting it down to where we're not seeing that green anymore. It's just that white flesh underneath, or as close to that as possible. So I hate that it's just poor things getting chopped up. So that's what we'll do. Then we're gonna go back through with a small knife and just kind of cut out some of those little pits. Ideally at the store, if you have the pick of the litter and a really good batch, you can find some blemish-free radishes that don't have the little pits in them. If you sit there and go through them and be picky, but I didn't see the best selection there, so I picked the best that I could find, and I tried to get exactly 8 pounds. So I just kind of took what I could get, but usually if it's a better stock or a better batch that I see over there, then I will sit there and find the like perfectly smooth radishes. And I know a lot of people do that too, so they might have been picked over by the time I was there. So anyway, but yeah, I learned this was like the first recipe that I pulled up was like how to make kimchi. And then I learned how to make the cabbage version. And then this came up on like autoplay on YouTube, and I was like, ooh, that might be better for me because I like a good crunchy kimchi. I don't like it being fermented too long. So I was like, maybe this will be perfect for me because I like a nice crunch. So, and lo and behold, yes, that was the case. So, okay, let's get let's see, got a little paring knife here. I just want to go through and see if I can get out these little imperfections. There we go. And I don't know if you have to do this. I'm sure it would be just fine, but I tend to like to get rid of the little pits and stuff if I can. if you must, and apparently I must. So you could sit here and shave this down until this is all gone and it's all nice and smooth. And I probably would do that if I had my good vegetable peeler, but this one is just terrible. There we go. I don't want to lose too much of the radish, but I do want to get rid of those little pits. There you go. Okay, cool. So that's as good as it's gonna get. Let me get a few of these on this side. This is not like an exact science by any means. And keep in mind, this is, you know, Korean cuisine is not something that I necessarily grew up with, other than my stepdad always having kimchi in the fridge. And we could always tell when he got it out and like, oh my gosh, it smells in here. But now I'm not like a bratty teenager. I'm a bratty adult, I guess, but I really appreciate Korean cuisine, and I wish I would have had those sentiments at a younger age, because he probably could have taught me a lot more. But when I was a kid, I was just like, ew, gross. So, wah, wah. But you learn and you grow up. Okay, so that's pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So next step that we're gonna wanna do is go ahead and rinse this well, and then we're gonna bring it back over to the cutting board. So give me just a second to pop over here. Just giving it a good rinse. Perfect. And then I've got a paper towel. I'm just gonna give this a quick once over so it's not dripping wet. Perfect. This makes it a little bit safer to cut as well. So, next step is we're gonna wanna get this into bite-sized cubes. You can make these cube sizes as big or as small as you want them. The smaller they are, the more opportunity it is for those to soften and lose that crunch, because what we do later, the mix, or I guess the seasoning and marinade, isn't gonna penetrate as deeply as quickly. So I tend to do like pieces that are like a 1, potentially 2 bite pieces, as opposed to like small little bite sizes. So that's how I like to do it. I feel like it keeps the radish crunchier for longer. So we're gonna essentially cut this into half discs and then chop those. Anytime I'm working with a round, unwieldy shape like this, I tend to like to cut it in half first. That way I can lay it down flat on the surface, rather than trying to like hold it while it's trying to roll off the cutting board. And it just makes it a little bit easier to work with when you've got that nice flat surface to work with. So we're just gonna go probably about like half to 3/4 inches deep, all the way down our radish here. And then once that's done, then we'll go ahead and cut this into cubes. So yeah, a little anecdote story, I guess. Me and my cousin and my mom and stepdad took a vacation to California and Vegas. And this is when I was fairly young. I think I was 12, because my middle brother was about 2. So you can see I did about a 1-inch cut that way, and then we're gonna do about the same this way. So we're looking at about a size of our radish about that big is what I typically go for. Now, like I said, you can go bigger or smaller. It's really up to you. I just like a nice bite size, if not 2 bites per piece. So as I'm chopping this, I'm gonna go ahead and put it into a bowl. And I'm using a bit of a special bowl here, and we'll talk about what makes this special once we're all done chopping and loading it up. But for now, we're just gonna keep chopping and loading this up right into the bowl. So I'm gonna keep that there next to me. And we've got an Apollo in the kitchen, and his favorite thing to do apparently today is his heavy breathing. So he's just laid down behind me and he's like, bleh, bleh, bleh. I'm like, sir, can you just, sir, calm down. But so you're gonna hear that, and my apologies. He's got his water here. He's not thirsty. He just wants to, I think in his head, he's just constantly thinking, play, play, play. It's like, sir, we took you for a walk. We played outside today. But anyway, so I went with my cousin, my mom and my stepdad, and my middle brother, who was right around 2 years old at the time, and we went to Vegas just to like spend like a long weekend. And we stayed at Circus, and so we had the passes to go to the little theme park that they had in there and walk around and they had a circus in there at one point, or like a boardwalk. So me and my cousin, who's a year older than me, so I think she was either 13 or 14 at the time, depending on when we went. We just kind of had free reign. Like, they would take my brother around in his little stroller thing and go do their stuff, and then we got to spend the day just meandering around, going on rides. And this was at that point, what would that be, like mid to late 90s? So there was more of that mindset of like, okay, see you 12 and 13-year-old later, bye. We'll see you back at the hotel room, or meet us at this area at this time. And we were pretty responsible kids. Like, we had to grow up fast, so we knew to stay within the resort or hotel property. We weren't like running around like crazy. So anyway, they kind of left us to our own devices during the day for the most part, and we'd meet to have like lunch or whatever. But then it was like, kind of meet us back at the hotel or back in the hotel room at XYZ time. So usually it was after dinner, or we'd go have dinner and then go back up to the hotel room, and then they would let us purchase like a movie on pay-per-view or whatever, and we had to watch my little brother while they went and drank and gambled during the night. So it was kind of a trade-off. Like, you kids can go ride the log flume and the roller coaster and go get cotton candy and hang out in the boardwalk and stuff all day, while we walk around with the 2-year-old. And then at night we kind of stayed in the hotel room, and I remember we watched it was this like movie where I think it's a girl or a guy or something like that, they time travel to the past or something like that, and then they arrive in this kind of like 50s, kind of nostalgic 50s kind of diner town, and everything's in black and white. But then as like the residents start to like uncover their true feelings and stuff, things become color. I forget what it was called. I want to say it was like Blast from the Past or something. But I remember we rented that movie, and it was like a 2-day rental, and we just watched it like 4 times. I think it had like Christina Applegate in it or something like that. Anyway, so that's what we would do at night is watch videos and hang out with my brother and babysit him, and we would put ourselves to bed and all that stuff, and then the next morning go out and, gallivant around and do it all over again. So one night we woke up and the room just smelled funky. Like, there was a funk in the room, and I could not put my finger on what it was. And the whole day, like, we would go mess around and then come back to the hotel room, like, what is that smell? And like my mom and my stepdad always had kind of like a sly grin throughout the, while we would be complaining about it and be like, we don't smell anything, we don't know what's going on. And the last night, or the last day when we were going to leave, my stepdad was like, ooh, don't forget this. And my mom's like, leave it. And I was like, what are they talking about? And they had, because we had a separate room, it was like one of those hotel rooms where it was like 2 hotel rooms, but there's a door in between. So they booked 2 rooms, and the kids stayed in one and they stayed in the other. And so my stepdad goes to open our mini fridge, which we hadn't really used, and from the back of the mini fridge pulled out this container, and they must have gone to like a Korean dinner or something one of the nights while we were in the hotel room, and he brought back kimchi, and they had stored it in our fridge the whole weekend because my mom didn't want to have to smell it in their room all weekend. So they stuck us with the stinky kimchi, and we had to deal with it. But now, thinking back on it, I should have known what that smell was, because anytime my stepdad would eat it, I would know, but it must have been like a different kind of kimchi or something. It was just off enough that I couldn't place it, you know? So that's kind of my my kimchi story. And that, once again, when I was a kid and a teenager, I did not like it at all. I thought it was gross, and my mom didn't like it, and I think she definitely influenced that too. Even though she was someone that always was like, at least try food once, try it once. Like, for whatever reason, kimchi was on her do not try list. And then when I became an adult, I tried it. I think I was living in Hawaii at the time. I tried it and I was like, this is actually really good. And I'm not a big fan of sauerkraut, which is what you could kind of compare kimchi to, but for me, it's a completely different flavor profile, and it's spicy. So it's not this, in my eyes, it's not the same thing. And I like kimchi far better than sauerkraut. So anyway, so that's my little anecdotal story. I'm gonna go ahead and keep chopping and cutting this stuff, but I'll do it at a fast speed so you don't have to sit through me doing it in regular speed, especially since this peeler is frustrating me. So I'm gonna keep going, and then when we come back, all of our radish will be chopped and ready for the next steps, okay? 1 second. Okie dokie. So we have got some very reflective. This radish just loves the light. Okay, so we have in front of us approximately 8 pounds of chopped Korean radish. It's a really nice. It's not as like bitey as a traditional radish that you may have seen in the store, like the small, like pinkish red ones. This has a much more mild flavor that isn't as bitey, but it has a nice watery crunch to it that I love. So this is why I gravitate towards this style of kimchi more than the cabbage style. And in my opinion, it's easier to prep. So, okay, so here is our kimchi. What we need to do now is similar to like what we did with the mizzetia and the cucumbers. We need this cabbage, or this, now I'm gonna say cabbage. We need this radish to sweat and release a lot of its natural moisture. That helps in that pickling process. So it just draws a lot of the natural moisture out of your radishes. So in order to do that, we're gonna go ahead and add 4 tablespoons of salt to this mix, as well as 4 tablespoons of sugar to this mix. So the sugar or the salt that I like to use is this one here, and I forget the name of the brand. It's in Korean, but it's their fine sea salt. So if you see this style of packaging at your Asian market, the reason I like this, you can use any old salt, but the reason I like this is it's fine, almost like kind of snowflake, really, really light and flaky kind of salt. And it just dissolves with the radish a lot faster than your like more solid granules of salt. So that's why I tend to go with this style. And I'll show you what it looks like up close. If I can find a measuring spoon. Probably should have had that ready to go. Where are you? There you go. Okay. Okay, there's our tablespoon. Ow. Okay. So you can see it's almost got like this snow consistency to it. It's just a little bit more fine and it just dissolves really nicely. So we're gonna do 4 of those. Oops. 2, 3, 4. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and set the salt aside. And then I've got some cane sugar that I like to use as well. You can, once again, any old sugar is gonna be fine, but at my Korean market or Asian market, I can find this organic cane sugar. So that's what I tend to use. And we're gonna do 4 tablespoons of that as well. Okay, Apollo, we get it, we get it. He's literally laying there like half passed out, but and he's not hot, like it's not hot in here. I don't know what his deal is. Okay, and last one. So that seems like a lot of salt and sugar, and granted it is, but a lot of this is gonna come out in the radish sweat water. Okay, so with clean hands, we're gonna go ahead and mix this so we get everything nice and coated with salt and sugar, okay? And I mentioned that this bowl is a special kind of bowl, and if you can see, there's like red underneath the white that we're working with. So this is like a strainer in a bowl, essentially. And so what that allows us to do is, as this radish sweats, I can lift up the inner bowl that they're resting in, drain out the sweat water, the radish juice that is accumulated at the bottom, and then set this back in here so it can continue to sweat. And this is pretty much maxing out what I can do with this bowl. And you'll probably, just like I was about to warn you, you'll probably see some escapees. When we get to mixing our seasoning, I'm probably gonna do this in 2 batches. That way I have some more room to work with. That 8 pounds is kind of like the absolute max. And then when we go to add all of our mix-ins, it can get a little crazy. So, oh my goodness. Apollo, nope, nope, nope. You can't eat that. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So yeah, like I said, this is kind of, I think maybe 6 pounds is the max you're gonna wanna do with a bowl this size. But they come in sizes that are like huge, like these massive, massive bowls to make like giant batches of kimchi. So you can find those too. If you're making it for like a large gathering or a large family. Oh my gosh, okay, that's enough. Anthony, focus. I'm literally dumping like a bunch out onto the floor right now. Apollo, no, those are not for you. Hold on. No, you can't have that. Oh my goodness. Oh my word. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, so let's give this a couple more good mixes. This will be the only time I do like the full hand mix. Usually, well, I might make a mess of that too. Usually I take this whole thing and go, waka, waka. But this is maxing out what I can do. That's pretty good, I think. I feel all of the salt and sugar dissolve. That's kind of when I know we're good. I'm not feeling any granules. Let me turn it this way. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, I wonder what this tastes like. It's good. It's so salty. But yeah, you can eat Korean radish raw, like on a salad, if you so choose. So there you go. Sorry, I'm just trying to like do damage control on the amount that I spilled. So this is probably slightly too small to do that, but okay, so now that this is set and mixed well, we're gonna sit and let this sweat for 3 intervals of 10 to 15 minutes. So in total, you're looking at 30 to 45 minutes of letting this sweat, but you're gonna wanna come in every 10 to 15 minutes and drain out your radish water. So one option you have, if you don't have a fancy bowl like this, is to go ahead and you would just have, if you just had a single bowl, to kind of do the, you know, like you strain out water from a pot. So you can do that. This just makes it really easy because I literally just have to lift this, and then you can already see, let's see if I can move this without too much dripping. You can see the water that's already come out of this just in the time that we were mixing. So we're gonna go ahead and just let this bad boy sit and sweat. It comes with a little lid here, so that just goes like that. And we're just gonna let that hang out for 10 to 15 minutes, come back and pour my juice into here and do that for 3 times over, okay? So while I'm letting this sit, I'm gonna probably go outside and play with Apollo in between. Of course, I'll wash my hands and stuff, but he needs some more energy released apparently. So we're gonna go have a snowball fight out in the back. Okay, we'll see you in anywhere from, I'll probably do the full 15-minute intervals, so I'll see you in 45 minutes, okay? Bye. Okay, so it has been just about 45 minutes. So now we have our radishes. I've strained and drained them a total of 3 times over the past 45 minutes. And literally what that means is I'll show you. So I have the lid here. I take it off and flip it upside down, so it's acting almost as a bowl. And then I remove our inner layer of radishes in this, set it here. And then here's where all of our water's sitting. So it's just kind of like a multi-layered bowl. So then I just dump. I think Apollo is trolling me today. So I had to stop this video because he drank out of his water bowl for like 2 minutes straight. I started again, tried again, and then he went over and grabbed the one squeaky toy that he has and was just like squeak, squeak, squeak. And I was like, sir, stop. And now he just like went and got even more water. I'm like, stop trolling me, but he just plopped down. So, okay, so I do that. So I just use the lid as just a catch for this while I'm doing that, and then everything goes back in the bowl. And then we ended up with this much left over, or this much of our radish water, or radish sweat. So we're gonna hold on to that because some of that's gonna get reincorporated back into our mix. But the next thing now is we're gonna add our additional seasoning ingredients to really create the kimchi part of this. Because this is such a full bowl, I'm gonna do this in 2 batches. So I'm essentially gonna eyeball and just do this in half, put that in one of my other mixing bowls, and then we'll do the rest in here. So let me go ahead and break that up for you. Let's see, is this my big boy? Let's see how much I can get in here. Okay, so, and I'm literally just eyeballing this. It's all gonna go back in the same container for storage at the end. I just don't wanna make a big old mess. feels about, let's do a little bit more. Okay, that feels about right. So now we've got our 2 batches here. Okay, so actually let me do one more. Like I said, it's all going in the same container. Whoopsie. I guess I could make it right in that container, but we'll do this instead. Okay, so what we want to do now is add our seasoning ingredients. Because I'm done straining, I'm going to go ahead and just put these in the actual bowl and remove this built-in strainer or colander. Okay, so there's that. Let's do one more handful. Okay, so what we want to do is go ahead and start putting in those additional seasoning ingredients right now. I've already broken them up into, or as much as I could, into half batches, and then we'll cover the last few things together. But what I have here is a half order of some of the seasoning, so you can see I doubled them up. I went ahead and pre-chopped all this stuff while we were waiting, but what we have in here is, and I'm going to give you the numbers for the full amount, not the half size, so keep that in mind. So even though this is only half, I'm going to be saying the full amount. So we have 4 tablespoons of minced garlic. A tablespoon might not sound like a ton of garlic, but it actually ends up being, for me, 4 tablespoons was almost 10 cloves of garlic. So one thing that makes life really easy is at some markets you'll be able to find these pre-peeled garlics. Or pre-peeled garlic. So it just goes a lot faster when you're dealing with this amount of garlic. So I just usually pop this in my fridge if I know I'm gonna get through it, or I'll break it up into a half. So I'll put half in the fridge, the other half in the freezer. So just depending on how quickly you go through garlic, we go through it relatively quickly. So I'm probably just gonna pop this in the fridge. So you've got your 4 tablespoons of minced garlic. You can do more or less if you'd like. This is really to taste. You're also going to do 8 stalks of green onion. So once again, there's only 4 in each bowl, but a total of 8. And this is for an 8-pound batch. So you can divvy that up, do it in half, whatever, however you'd like, depending on how quickly you'll go through it. Then we also have 2 tablespoons of minced ginger. So that's finely minced in there. And that's it that's in here. And that's all the chopping. So we have the radish, the green onion, the garlic, and the ginger. That's all of the chopping we're doing for this recipe. Everything else is just dump it in and mix it up, okay? So let's go ahead and add this half amount to this. And I think this might be nice to show what a half batch looks like. So there's about 4 pounds in here, just so you get a good idea. If you're making this just for yourself or you and one other person, or you know that you just won't go through it that quickly, you can see what a half batch looks like. So we went ahead and dumped that in there. The next thing that we're gonna need is our Korean red pepper flakes. So we're gonna go ahead and add 2/3 cup to each half. So for the 8-pound batch, you're gonna need 1.5 cups of red pepper flakes. But we're gonna do 2/3 cup in each of these half batches. This once again, oh, and here's the brand that I use. It's called powdered red pepper. This is what I use. And yeah. So there's 1/3 of a cup. Now they smell and they look a little bit like your just traditional red pepper flakes, but trust me, they are not. You can see how fine and flaky those are. They're incredibly thin. And you want to make sure that you use this specific kind, and you'll see why once we start mixing this. Okay, so next up, we're gonna go ahead and add a 1/4 cup of fish sauce to this. Fish sauce is just made with, I think it's made with like actual like fish bones and dried up fish stuff, but it's a really unique ingredient, adds a nice flavor. There's a bunch of different brands. Just happens to be the one that I go with. And this is not prepared fish sauce, but you can get a prepared fish sauce that you can use right away to dip egg rolls and stuff into. This is the unprepared, so it's really pungent. And I use it mainly just when I'm making kimchi. So we're gonna go ahead and put in our 1/4 cup. If you are making this vegetarian, Mangji, who I got this recipe from, and I'll make sure to link her video down in the description box, suggests that you can use soy sauce in place of the fish sauce. So there's that. We're also going to use 1/3 cup of our leftover radish water per half batch. So a total of 2/3 cup. And then for the fish sauce, it would be a total of a 1/2 cup. But like I said, right now we're divvying everything in half. So I'll write out the recipe for you as well in the description box, so you can also just refer to that. How much water is this? I swear he's like, you know, it'd be funny if I just get up and drink water every 30 seconds. At least he's staying hydrated. Okay, so we've got our radish water. We've got our 1/3 cup measuring cup. So I'm just gonna go right in there and boom. Maybe just a touch more. Boom, so there's that. And I'll do the same with our second batch. Okay, so that's it. So the fish sauce, the red pepper flakes, and the radish water, and yeah, that's it. So I think in total we have the radish itself, salt, sugar, the 3 ingredients in our bowl, which is ginger, garlic, onion, and then fish sauce, radish water, and red pepper flakes. So a total of 9 ingredients for this recipe. So now that we've got this all together, it's time to mix it up. And in order to do that, we are gonna grab, if I can find them. Oh no. Oh, here they are. Okay. I was like, if I don't have these, that's gonna be a problem. I'm gonna grab some plastic gloves. This red pepper flake is spicy. It'll stain underneath your fingernails and your hands. It will take a long time to get that smell out of your hands. So I just have the, I'll show you what it looks like. I just have this package of rubber gloves or plastic gloves that I got from the Korean market. And so whenever I make kimchi, I'm gloving up, and I don't mind using multiple pairs. It just, trust me, it'll save you the heartache, especially later that day. You think you've washed your hands enough times and you go to rub your eye or something like that, and it reminds you that, no, you did not get all of it off. So we're gonna just mix this thoroughly, and you're gonna see the transformation. Right now you can see how flaky and kind of powdery that red pepper flake looks, but as we mix this, what makes these Korean red pepper flakes really unique is they start to dissolve and really turn into an actual kind of liquid almost. So let's kind of see that happen. So we're just gonna mix and mix. It really incorporates with the radish water and the fish sauce. And right now, once again, like I said, it looks kind of a little dry, a little flaky. This is the first time I've made this with Apollo around, and he is so like, what is that smell? Hey, buddy, it's okay. He's like, what is that? So as you continue to mix it, you see that now it's really starting to coat our radish and become that like deep red color. It's only gonna continue to get more saucy as we mix. So we wanna mix for a couple of minutes to really get a good coat on this radish. So yeah. Now with the radish kimchi, I think it's the same with the cabbage one too, but with the radish kimchi, I forget the technical name or the actual Korean name for it, but there's a different name for a quick made radish, a quick made kimchi. So you can literally mix this up like this and serve it fresh. Now, it is gonna have a different flavor profile than kimchi that's been fermented, but you can serve this almost as like a fresh, like kind of kimchi almost salad. I forget the name of it, but you can do that. So you can see now it's really starting to coat our radish and really become more of like a paste than the flakes. So that's why it's important to make sure that you're using those proper Korean red pepper flakes, because your regular old crushed red pepper flakes are not going to break down like this. So, yeah, there is our kimchi, our fresh kimchi. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and grab my container that I store my kimchi in and show you what that looks like. Oh, actually, No, let me go ahead and mix up our second batch so I have it all done together. Let me go ahead and do that, and then I'll put everything in the container so you can see what that looks like, okay? So hang on tight 1 second while I switch over to the other bowl and get that prepped, okay? Hang tight.
어릴 때 원했던 어른이 됐나 Thought I found oh she's mine 놓칠까 달렸던 나 Let's just take it slowly 요즘 어떤 때 같은 곳을 바라보고 있잖아 Go anywhere you want to Underneath the pressure oh sometimes wish I knew it too Fly away from tomorrow 이제는 너
Okie dokie. I think I can crank the lights now that the radish isn't reflecting so much. So a couple of tips when you're mixing up your kimchi. Make sure that you're working on a surface that isn't going to easily get stained. If you've got those beautiful marble or granite countertops that might not have the best sealant on them, you're going to want to be careful because that red pepper will stain everything. And I know from personal experience, partially staining my old roommate's beautiful countertops, and we had to essentially buff it down to get the stain out. Not fun. So so I'm actually working on the stove with like a cloth over it to catch stuff, and I'm not worried about these cutting boards that I have here. So okay, so we're done mixing both of our half batches. Like I said, I'll put the ingredients list and the directions in the description. I want to go ahead and taste this fresh batch just to make sure that the spice level's right. It will get more spicy and more sour as it ferments, but let's take a taste. Oh yeah, oh my gosh. Why don't I make this more often? Okay. I like it not super sour, not overly fermented. Some people like it really sour, really intense. I like it a little lighter. So you have a couple options here as far as storage goes. You can either put this into mason jars, which is a pretty typical storage method, or they have special containers for items like kimchi, other of those like side dishes that ferment. So I actually have one of those specialty containers, but if you were to pack this into mason jars, essentially you'll take that gloved hand, go ahead and scoop some out, put it into the mason jars. I suggest getting the wide mouth ones, and you want to actually like kind of punch it down into the mason jar. You want to pack it tight, remove as much of that air as possible, because you don't want too much air exposure when you're going through that fermenting process. A few bubbles here and there is fine, but you essentially want to close up as much of those gaps between pieces as you can. So I will put a handful in a big mason jar and literally like punch it down and just pack it in there as tightly as I can. So that's how you do that. Then you want to make sure you just clean the rim of your mason jar thoroughly. I usually use a wet paper towel. Clean that rim so you get a nice tight seal with your lid. All right, so that's how you would do it with the mason jars. You want to pack them as full as possible, give them a good seal. If you end up with one that's like a quarter or a third away full, whatever that leftover is, I suggest just putting that in a Tupperware container and eating it within the next day or two. You want to try to keep your mason jars relatively full. Once again, minimizing the amount of air that would be left at the top. You want those pretty packed full. So there is that, but I cheat, not necessarily cheat, but I learned that I prefer utilizing one of these specialty containers. It just works better for me. It's a little bit easier. It does take up more room in the fridge. But let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. So this is, oops, we have a straggler. You over here. I guess I could have just ate that. So it's this Comax 14 liter BPA-free kind of storage solution for your kimchi. You can see they've got some examples of all the different kind of stuff that you can put in here, but it's just a big container. It's really straightforward. The thing that makes it unique, however, is it's got this little thing. It's got this rubberized gasket all around it. Let me, hold on, let me zoom you out a little bit. Okay, sorry, you're probably bouncing a little bit. But anyway, it's got this rubberized gasket, flippy gasket on the side here. Oh, it's got some fuzzies on it. Maybe I should give this a quick rinse. I might stop, pause, and give this a quick rinse. Oh, I think it's fine. It's just been sitting in the pantry for probably longer than it should. But anyway, so it has that rubberized gasket around it. So when you compress it, it pushes the air out of this little hole. So that's how you remove the oxygen from this. It's like a kind of squeegeeing it all down. And then you press that and it seals it. So then you can see, it's really hard to get out because of that suction. But then when I release the cap, then I can do that. So the nice thing about this is when you're fermenting your kimchi, I typically ferment mine for a couple of days, meaning I leave it out in room temperature and it just starts, that bacteria, which is good bacteria, starts to grow. Kimchi is really high in probiotics. It's good for gut health. So I typically leave mine out for 2 days. So 2 days at room temperature, and I go in every half day or once a day, and if I have it in the mason jars, I just crack those mason jars just to release some pressure, because it'll start to pressurize in there because it's releasing gases. So you'll actually hear it go kind of like let a little air out, and then I seal it right back up again. And I'll do that once or twice a day for 2 days, and then I place it in the fridge. Refrigerating it really slows down that fermentation process. It's still gonna ferment in the fridge, so over time it will start to taste more sour, more intense, but it's a much slower process. You're talking about weeks instead of days. Same thing with this. Once I fill this with kimchi and pressurize it every so often, I'll just open it up and release this valve to let that air out. And I'll do that for a couple days, and then this entire thing just goes in the fridge, and I just keep it in there, and anytime I want a little bit of kimchi, I just crack it open. So clearly this is made for much bigger than what I'm doing today, but I figure one of these days maybe I'll make a big old batch for Christmas or for the holidays, and I'll need this as it's fermenting. Let me just give it a little, it doesn't need to be fully washed. I'm just like, honestly, I don't think I've made kimchi since no, I must have. I'm trying to think if how long it's been since I've made a batch of kimchi. I think I've made it once before, once since I moved in here, which was a year ago. But I put it all in mason jars because I gave some to my stepdad. So I think it's just got, I don't know. I'm being overly protective, or whatever, I don't know. I'm being OCD, I guess, but that's okay. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and pop a glove back on, and we're gonna load this thing up with kimchi. I've got one of my gloves waiting on deck, and you literally just take your kimchi. Like I said, if this was a mason jar, you'd be packing this into a mason jar, but this is just gonna go right in here. And they make, like I said, like I showed you in that picture, they make little inserts for these where you can do different items and almost have it packed with a few different things. So I'm also gonna get my spatula here, and I'm just gonna get all that peppery goodness out of here. You don't wanna waste any of that. Oh, it smells so good. The whole house smells so good. Wonder what my roommate's gonna think. I'm like, dude, what is happening in here? Like, I made 8 pounds of kimchi. So yes, that's good enough. And then we're gonna set this bowl here and grab our next one. So you can see this container could hold a lot more than we're putting in here. This is for like a family size, but this is still a decent amount. This will keep me and my roommate and our downstairs friends / roommates going for a while. And I typically eat kimchi with pretty much any lunch or dinner. Like, it really doesn't matter what it is. Like, pizza, grab some kimchi. Soup, grab some kimchi. Okay, and I got most of the pepper out of that plastic bowl, so I'm okay. I'm not gonna spatula that out. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going through and compressing down our kimchi, just trying to get as much air out of that as possible. And I also want to check for any spillage up on the sides because I don't want the squeegee cover thing to catch on that. So we're looking pretty good. I kept it relatively mess-free. And so now that we have our kimchi in our container, ready to rock and roll, we're gonna go ahead and put our lid on it. So I'm releasing the valve and you can hear it compress. Down it goes. Give it a good press, kind of tighten it, and there you go. So I could literally lift this entire thing up by that because it's created that airtight suction. So as it ferments, like I said, a couple of times a day for the next 48 hours, I'm just gonna open this up and just go like this. And it'll off gas and then close it back. Keep doing that and then it goes in the fridge. So it has a little lid. It's not just this thing open, it's got a little lid here. So we're gonna go ahead and put that down, clip and clip, and that's it. 2 little handles. I'm just gonna go put this in the laundry room and it's gonna sit there for 2 days. And I just set an alarm on my phone to remind myself that A, it's there, and B, that I need to go in, and I'll just take it out, pop this open, off gas it, seal it, and close it. I do that total of 4 times over the next 2 days, and then this entire thing, lid and all, this whole thing goes in the fridge. And it sits in there for whenever I want to crack it open and get myself a snack. So that's it. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that we got to make kimchi together. Let me know if you have any questions, comments. Let me know if this looks familiar to how you do it or if you have any suggestions on how to change it up. I only ever learned from one person, that was Mangchi on YouTube. So I'm sure there's lots of different styles and methods. If you have been making kimchi or seen your people make kimchi your whole life and you're like, Anthony, that is so backwards and upside down, let me know because I'd always like to improve my methods. This is just what I've learned from fangirling over Korean cuisine. So yeah, let me know questions, comments. If you plan on maybe trying this yourself at some point, great. Otherwise, maybe one time here in the next week or so when I do a vlog, I'll grab some finished kimchi so you can see what it looks like. It pretty much looks like that, maybe just a little bit more liquid. You can ferment it out of the fridge for even longer than 2 days. Like I said, I don't like mine super sour or extra fermented, so 48 hours is kind of where I go, and it continues to ferment once it's in the fridge. So yeah, questions, comments, all that good stuff. I hope that you took some value out of this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this content with friends, family members, all that good stuff. Otherwise, happy placing, and we'll see you next time. Bye, 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 bye. Bye.